It's the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. Here to help you solve your marketing problems and grow your e-commerce business. Cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and advice from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. I'm Chloe, the creator and host of this award-winning show, and it's my aim in every episode to help you find ways to improve your business. I met this episode's guest when I was co-hosting one of the e-commerce tech events in the USA. Her story and mission is so impressive and powerful that I just had to invite her here on the show to help spread the word. So today's episode is going to be a little different. Yes, it's about e-commerce. Yes, it's about how to improve your business and grow your sales. And my guest has run her own retail business. And yes, we're still doing the top tips at the end, and you're still going to get lots of great advice throughout. But this one definitely fits firmly in the inspiration category. This is going to have you kind of thinking a bit laterally about some things, thinking differently about things. And if you're in fashion or trying to be more sustainable and fairer in what you're doing and find untapped markets, this is 100% a must listen for you. Before we get into all that though, please do check out the sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for brands of all kinds and sizes. Whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out or you're part of a marketing team at a multinational brand, Klaviyo will give you everything you need to create memorable marketing moments, building customer relationships that keep shoppers coming back time and time again. Get started with a free account today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan. That's klaviyo.com/masterplan. Helium 10 is an all-in-one software tool for entrepreneurs to help them start, build and grow a business on Amazon. Helium 10 has all the tools you need to run your business in one place. No more downloading multiple apps or paying for different software. And I have an incredible offer for you. My listeners get 50% off their first month of Helium 10 Platinum when you go to helium10.com and use the code MASTERPLAN when you check out. Don't wait to get 50% off your first month. Go to helium10.com and use the code MASTERPLAN. And now to introduce today's guest expert, Camilla Olson from Savitude. Camilla was a VC in the 80s, and then she founded two predictive modelling companies in biopharma, one with a $95 million buyout 1 year after launch, and the other is the basis of CERTARA, which IPO'd in December 2020 and quickly rose to a $4 billion valuation. She then took quite a turn, earning an MFA, that's a Master's in Fine Arts in Fashion Design, and ran her own e-commerce label for 5 years. Most recently, she's founded the inclusive fashion company Savitude, who are helping fashion designers solve the fit, return and excess inventory problems by providing enhanced sketching using AI design intelligence. Hello, Camilla.
Well, hello, Chloe. How are you?
I'm good. And I'm really, really pleased to have you here on the podcast because one, you're clearly got an incredibly impressive bio, but also what you're doing with Savitude, I think is fascinating and I want to bring it to our audience. So tell us a bit, let's get started with why you decided to found Savitude, because I think that's where this all comes from really, doesn't it? So why did you create the business?
I didn't intend to. Like how I got here is a total accident. But in the end, I think, are you asking why did I get into e-commerce or how did I get into, like, I want to answer the question you're asking. Like,
I'm interested in how you ended up in e-commerce and why you founded Savitude, and I'm going to guess they're kind of related. So
yes, it's an accident. So as you know, I started out in biopharma, which was my love for so many years, but then I did get a little tired of doctors, and all of that. And I thought, everybody else is dealing with really cool stuff. I'm like, I want to do something fun. But anyhow, I thought I was retiring. My daughter wanted to be a fashion designer, and I knew that was a bad idea. I took her to a local open house at the fashion school in San Francisco because I thought this is going to definitely turn her off for sure. except that I ended up enrolling. So by accident. And so anyhow, she's now doing finance, and I ended up doing a master's in fine arts. So somehow there's a split in personality, that movie.
Yeah.
That happened that day. So
is it Freaky Friday, the one when the mother and the daughter swap places?
Freaky Friday happened. Yeah. So I ended up doing it because during the dot-com era, I developed a Chanel habit. A bad one. And then the bus came and I couldn't afford it. So I tried to sew it, hated what I sewed, hated the design, the quality. So the reason I enrolled, because I thought I'll learn how to do it. They'll teach me here. So I thought I'll take a couple classes. Well, and I'll stay until they kick me out. Well, I ended up graduating at the top of the class.
Congrats.
Showing my collection at Lincoln Center during Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. I got some orders. I'm like, oh, crap, I got orders. So what am I going to do now? I got to start a label. I got to sell them. So I'll do e-commerce. That's easy. No, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Your audience knows how easy it is. It's like the worst thing in the world. But I started an e-commerce label and learned how difficult it is. And of course, I was working in silk, which is the worst thing to be doing on e-commerce, right? The worst thing in the world. And we did a lot of private clients for very fancy events like the Academy Awards and the Met Gala. So we learned a lot about custom fit. And that brought me into body shape. And they never teach you about body shape at fashion school.
That's mad.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because us women, we're not all, the men aren't the same shape as each other either, but women in particular, we're all quite bumpy in the main, and then some of us aren't bumpy at all.
Yeah, dress forms are not bumpy, and fit models are never bumpy. And then I figured out that I'm not the only bumpy person in the world. I thought it was just me. That's not true. But I spent 4 years researching it during my fashion label, and I realized this is a big problem. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed about it. Then I realized that everybody has this same problem. And I thought, that's a business opportunity. So I shut down my label and started Savitude. And we built a recommendation technology system because somewhere along the line, I figured what we had done in one of my earlier companies, I could apply here. And so I thought we could model our way out of this fit problem. And that's the beginning.
If you can get enough data on people's sizes, then you should be able to create a model that enables people to find the clothes that fit them.
Yeah, kind of simplistically, I thought if people could think like fashion designers, and if I could create a tool that would kind of guide them that way, then, that would help them make better choices and be a much more satisfied customer. Buy clothes that would flatter them better. And so that's what we try to do, is kind of take a fashion designer's brain, put it in, AI, and serve it up.
So to help the end consumer make better purchasing decisions.
Exactly. So recommendation technology based on aesthetics. So what we did is that we basically had 729 body shapes. Whoa. And all the curves and everything around that, matching with different kinds of silhouettes of clothing and design details. So our language is a design detail in our AI. And so it's a 40,000 unit database that we have with lots of machine learning and a very sophisticated visual recognition technology. So we put that on the market. We did a very large A/B test with 2.8 million people.
Wow.
We proved an 11% lift, which is big in
So you
retail.
used it on someone's website and
Yes.
and they split tested people who went down the Savitude route, people who didn't. And that's a huge lift.
That's a huge lift, yeah. And that's across the whole population. And only about 15% of the people elected to use our quiz. But But even though only 15% elected to use our quiz, we got that 11% lift. So imagine if everybody did. It would have been much, much, much higher.
So it's like an A-B split test. We'll say 50-50 of the traffic coming through. Of the 50% who had the option, only 15% took it, but that was enough to give you
11%.
11% sales uplift.
Yeah.
That's mad.
So it's massive. It's massive. Huge. Except when we looked at the data, there were some times and they were like, oh, what are we going to recommend to these people? There were some
a 404 questions. Page, for want of a better answer. People for whom they just want
a better page. Yeah. So after the test, I had some other business and we looked around and then I kept thinking about this and I realized, we have a problem. If we continue in this business, we're going to continue to run up some issues that there are pockets of women where there's really no clothes that were to recommend to them to make them look better. And that's because nobody has designed for their body shape ever. That
just blows my mind. I mean, when you said you identified 729 different body types, I was like, initially I was kind of like, that's insane. And I was like, actually, that kind of makes sense because we have different shaped arms, different shaped torsos, different shaped legs and all the rest of it. But the fact that I guess it's one thing developing the tech to help people make better choices to buy clothes that will suit them better, make them feel better, make them look better. But if there's nothing to sell them.
Yeah. So imagine that person who her whole life has gone into stores and never found anything to A, fit her body, or B, that looks good on her. She looks in the mirror, she's like, she just never looks good. I mean, imagine how she feels about herself. And so this is a large percentage of the population. I mean, you can look down the street and see that it's true. And it's not like these people get up and don't know how to dress. It's that they can't find clothes that flatter them because nobody's making it and because nobody's designing it. It's not their fault.
So we're not talking about 10 people in a million who have no clothes being made for them.
No, we're talking like 40%. We're talking a lot of people. We're talking a big number. So I got really, really mad when I realized what was going on.
I'm still in the stage of, oh my God, that's insane. I suspect I'll get mad later at the stupidity of the fact no one's producing clothes to them, because that's a huge market opportunity. Yeah. Apart from the fact it's rude, it's
rude. But I'm thinking like, imagine what this can do. There's the business opportunity, but I mean, just imagine how much better society will be when women can feel better about themselves. Yeah. Just because, clothes make a huge impact on how we look at ourselves, feel about ourselves, and there's a whole pocket of women that I can look at and I can see them and I know why they are that way. And it's because a lot of it has to do with clothing. And I think that we can solve a lot of, the governmental issues, a lot of our economic issues just by solving this problem. And not to mention the environmental issues and, the industry we're trying to fix. I mean, it's a huge problem all because of this stupid decision that we're going to honor a certain kind of woman and idealize her because she's born with a certain frame. That's just wrong. That's just plain out wrong. And I just can't accept that and kind of retire and forget about it. Can't do that.
And I'm guessing, because, when you said about the A-B split test and only 15% elected to take the quiz, that's got to be quite hard to accept when you know that at least 40% of women are definitely buying the wrong clothes and clothes that don't fit them because the clothes for them don't even exist. But yet only 15% of the whole population even bothered to try and find the solution. So it strikes me that potentially attacking this from the consumer end isn't the way to go.
Well, that's an interesting question. I did some research. I've been tracking the consumer side for many years now, and it goes between 45 and 55% of the population hates shopping. Finds it a chore, really dislikes it, finds it depressing, all these negative words about it. About half of women hate it. But I asked a new question this recent time, and would you like to design your own clothes? And if you do, why? And gave a bunch of reasons why. And 83% of women want to have a hand in designing their clothes to correct for body shape.
Wow.
Specifically, 83%. So it's a bigger problem than I think it is from a woman's point of view.
Because there's the 40% who are no clothes to make them look good and feel good. But then there's presumably quite a large proportion who can't find the clothes because either they're really niche or niche and they literally can't find them, or they just don't know what they should be wearing.
Yeah, and just women are aware that they know they want something more. They're, I think with the internet, people have gotten smarter about what is available to them, and they want it. So I think the consumer herself knows what she wants. Every time I talk to a woman, someone who is not in the business, they are very excited. I want this. I want to be able to design my own clothes. But you talk to a retailer, you talk to a brand, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know. You've got to, we have our process, we have our this, we have our that. And, they're like, I don't know. And it's like, your consumers want this. There's no question about this. Yeah. So it's, anyway, I digress.
So, no, but it's good. It's good digression. It's, it is, the more you think about it from every angle, the more of a wasted opportunity it is on, every single angle, from the societal issues through to the business opportunity and all the rest of it. It's just gobsmacking, really. So you've kind of sent yourself on a mission to help solve this problem. So what's Savitude now doing to help deal with this?
Well, we've developed a product that solves this problem. And I had this crazy idea to work with the luxury fashion community, which is, the toughest customer in the world when it comes to having them change their design process. Yeah,
I was going to say, it's not... Here in the UK, we've got kind of like the fast fashion guys, and they would probably be the easier ones to go after. The Boohoo's and maybe even the Primark model who are, doing cheap and quick turnarounds. But yeah, going the couture end, interesting angle.
I had this idea that I wanted to talk to the companies in the luxury business, because that is where fashion originates. What happens on the runways is carried through to all the stores, and and in the end, that's what goes in the landfills, right? So that's the origin. True, today some of it goes from the street back up, but majority of it starts on the runway. So I wanted to be able to figure out, how am I going to talk to luxury? It's certainly not going to be a change that happens in a measure of days. It'll be longer than that. But I wanted to get that understanding. Of course, while I was there, I had this idea of, let's analyze what goes down the runway and let's see what the starting place is. And so we took all of every look that walked the runways for the last 5 years, and in New York, London, Milan, and Paris, and analyzed who is that look most likely to flatter.
Okay, so matching all those outfits to the 729 body types, and how much fit do you get between how much matching do you get between the two?
Who is that look intended for? Who's the primary body shape is that going to flatter? And so we did that for spring 2021. And so we did it and then we wanted to compare that with the distribution of the population from our data. And so, of course, we needed to do that for the U.S. because our data is U.S. based. So we took the New York information and compared it to the U.S. population. And we found some very interesting information. We found what we call the inclusion gap. And that is the undersupply of looks, a distribution of looks for several body shapes versus the distribution of people having that body shape. And then an oversupply of where there's too many looks for certain body shapes. And then I did some simple math and came out that it's over $120 billion market opportunity if we're losing by undersupplying underserving these body shapes.
That's huge.
And then if you look at the oversupply, that is what's going into the landfills. Because we're giving too much choice, because this is, we're offering too much choice for these body shapes and not enough over here. And that's what's ending up in the landfill.
Well, I'm sure everyone listening, the men and the women, can relate to buying something because you need something for an event and it's not quite right. You wear it once and then you throw it away. And if we've, and those of us who are in the underserved part of the market, we're buying from the overserved shapes to fill our needs. But it's, if you get that piece of clothing that really works, you'll wear it for years and years and years and years. Whereas if you're making compromises the entire time because the right clothes aren't there, you churn a lot faster, don't you? The clothes get got rid of a lot faster.
If your shoulders are broad, you're not buying anything because you're not fitting it. You can't even get that garment on your body. You're walking out of the store not buying anything. So there are some geometries that are causing no sale at all.
It just, every way you look at it, it's just befuddling that no one is serving this market.
Yeah, and so the part that's really underserved is a part where there's a body shape, the oval and the diamond, where the belly is larger. So these can be women who are at their recommended body shape. So they're not overweight, but they just care. Their body is shaped that way. And there's certain, they're like, they can't wear a sheath. That will not look attractive on them, but so Michael Kors is out for them. Right?
So that's one brand gone.
gone. And, so for them, like there's so many that they just can't even get around their body. So there's certain silhouettes that would work perfectly for them, but nobody ever thinks to make them, ever.
Yeah, because we're not just talking about it fits you, we're talking about it looks good on you as well. Right. It makes you feel good and suits you.
Well, there's also the physical possibilities. We want to be able to close the garment around you. You want to be able to not expose yourself out there. Yeah. You want to be able to zip up the garment, right? So, there's a lot of issues with that. So when you start looking into exactly where the gaps are, you're seeing it's more than, they're buying something that looks bad on them. It's like they physically can't get in there. Oh my God. And the solution is not to make 1,000 different SKUs. The solution is to have a variety of silhouettes.
And you've identified there's a huge opportunity. You've identified ways in which it's not being met, and you've started tackling it at the luxury end. What would you like to see retailers doing to start solving this issue with their next range?
Well, so we've developed a dashboard where we can analyze, because we have really strong visual recognition. So we can analyze for a retailer, for example, we can analyze any buy that they're looking at and give them a display of where they're overbought and where they're underbought, so that they can balance their buy and make sure it serves their population. And if they don't know what their population is, we have a quiz that they can use to find out what their population is.
Step number 1, understand your customer.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the other side, in America, we have something called the IEEE, which is an engineering standards organization. And it's an industrial group. And I'm talking to them about making this understanding of body shape an open network, an open database. So worldwide, globally, and that everybody contributes to, let's understand what the body shape distribution is throughout the world by country or by city, whatever. But every retailer knows what their own customer range is.
I like that, because the more data that all gets pulled together, the better the results will become, and the faster the problem will be solved. So it's not a case of wanting to ring fence the data. It's a case of being clever about how you use the data, I suppose.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, Camilla, it's been hugely fascinating talking about this, and I could quite happily talk about it for a lot longer to come, and I hope we've inspired the audience. But right now, we should probably move into the top tips round. So we're going to take a listen to our sponsors, and then we're going to hit on with the top tips.
E-commerce Master Plan is supported by some of the greatest companies in the e-commerce sector. Here's a reminder of who they are.
Success in 2021 means building stronger relationships with your customers. Last year saw a lot of consumers switching to buy online, leading to surges in new customer acquisition. So how are you planning on turning your new first-time buyers into profitable repeat customers? Well, that's what Klaviyo is for. Klaviyo helps businesses create memorable marketing moments through email, SMS, and personalised website experiences. And that is what creates repeat purchases. That's why Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform, is used by over 50,000 e-commerce brands around the world. Get started with your free account today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan. That's klaviyo.com/masterplan. Helium 10 is an all-in-one software tool for entrepreneurs to help them start, build and grow a business on Amazon. Whether you're just starting or are several years into e-commerce, it's a must-have tool for your business. And I have an incredible offer for you. My listeners get 50% off their first month of Helium 10 Platinum when you go to helium10.com and use the code MASTERPLAN when you check out. Don't wait. To get 50% off your first month, go to helium10.com now and use code MASTERPLAN.
It's time for the top tips round.
Okay, I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our businesses to the next level. So Camilla, are you ready for these?
I'm scared.
Don't be scared. They're
Okay.
really easy. You're going to be great.
Okay.
This is a lot easier than what you've been doing. So should be good. The book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agreed to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, which book would you recommend?
Well, there's a new book by, there are, I think, 3 or 4 authors, but the one author that I'm going to name is Cody Sims, Codysimms. And the name of the book is Levers, Levers, Bridge the Gap Between Tactics and Vision in Your Business. He's an executive in Techstars. I happen to know him very well. He's an amazing man, knows what he's talking about. I would pick that up.
Excellent. Like it, a personal recommendation.
He's the Senior Vice President of Climate and Sustainability at Techstars.
Excellent. Even better.
Yeah.
Okay, the traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
I think that getting your customers to have a say in your product is the best thing. I've talked about this 83%, and I think that the more we bring our consumers in to guiding our product description, definition, or letting them guide their own product design, the better off we'll be.
Oh, I like that. So true too. Okay, the tool top tip, maybe a collaboration tool, a social media plugin, a phone app, or just a way of working. Is there a cool little tool you use that makes you and your team more efficient from day to day?
Yeah, there are two. One is Notion. I've discovered recently to use Notion for note taking. So I used to use a little book to handwrite my notes, and now I've converted myself over to typing into Notion on a new page every time. But my best tip is while I was doing that accelerator, I was on calls to Europe all the time. So I picked up Time Buddy on my phone, and I'm constantly converting CET to PST. And I was on that 10 times a day over the last 6 months.
Oh, nice. I'm always having worries about time conversion, so I'm going to have to download that one. Right, the growth top tip. If you met someone today who's focused on growing their e-commerce business from 100 orders per month to 1,000, what would be your number one tip for them?
I would say stop doing everything else and pay attention to what's happening right this minute. I think that, I know for me, I start getting frantic and start worrying about so much, and if you're trying to do that, you need to focus on what's that one thing and seriously focus on that one thing and get it going.
I love that. That's great advice. Well, look, Camilla, before we say goodbye, could you let the listeners know where they can find you and your business on the web and social media, please?
Our website is www.savitude, S-A-V as in Victor, I, T as in Thomas, U as in U-D, David, E, savitude.com. And our social media is Savitude or Savitude AI on all of them.
Excellent. And if someone who's been inspired by what we've been talking about today, what's the next step they should take towards improving things in their business?
They should contact me at Camilla@savitude.com. And I'd love to talk with them about what we could do to help them out. And there is, for this technology that we've developed for what we've talked about today, we have a free version that you can download directly from our website and play with, kind of get a sense of what we're doing. It's really fun. We even have a TikTok version. So for $7 a month. So there's a really inexpensive way that you can kind of get to know what we're doing, but there's a much better professional version as well.
Excellent. I love that. Right. There you go, guys. No excuses at all now for not improving your fashion ranges. Camilla, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been fascinating chatting with you. And I really hope we've inspired both the fashion and non-fashion retailers to take a different look at how they're serving their customers and make it better for everyone. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I really love this. Nice to chat with you too.
Fascinating chatting with Camilla there. So I guess for me, the key takeaways are, if you're in fashion, are you serving the full opportunity you could be serving? Are you helping your customers feel as good as they could be by addressing lots of different body shapes and types? If you're not, or if you want to know, then go and check out the free resources that Camilla's made available to help you analyse where you're at right now, what the next buy looks like. And if you're not in the fashion industry, I mean, Camilla's research and her tech has highlighted a huge opportunity that's being underserved and that's causing issues like high returns rates, stuff going into landfill and so forth. It's bad news for all of us. But I'm sure there's opportunities like that, underserved markets in other areas of the world, other areas of the e-commerce world, not just fashion. So what's the opportunity in your space? You can get your hands on the notes from today's show, including the top tips and links to the things we mentioned, by heading over to ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast. There you can also add yourself to our email list so you don't miss out on any of the other things I share to help you improve your business. And we do regularly touch on sustainability, ethics, etc. If you've liked this episode and you're intrigued to explore these topics more, then I've got I've got 3 episodes for you to have a listen to. The first is episode 310 with Dan Dicker from Circular & Co. They make homeware products and have completely embraced the circular economy and gone great guns by doing so. Episode 253 with Lucy Bloomfield, who was running a skincare business out of Australia, and she completely changed what she was doing based on the sustainability of it all, and has been very successful too. And then we've also got episode 265 with the phenomenal Bree Reed, who's running the inclusive tights retailer Snag, who in many ways has done what Camilla's asking us all to do in the world of tights. Right. Thank you all for tuning into this and every episode of the e-commerce master plan podcast. I bring you a new interview every week because I want to inspire and help as many e-commerce business owners as possible to succeed and thrive with their businesses. So please do tell the other e-commerce business owners you know, because I'd love to help them as well. I hope you have a great week and keep optimizing.
Thank you for listening to the e-commerce master plan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast.